Well, good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. It is all coming out now, a supposedly legitimate political race for the nation's highest office, undermined by collusion between a candidate and a powerful outside actor. American voters repeatedly lied to. Now our democracy is quaking beneath the blow of it all. We're referring, of course, to the 2016 Democratic presidential primary. That party reeling from a recent piece in Politico by former acting DNC chair Donna Brazile. In the article, which is taken from her upcoming book, Brazile says the DNC essentially handed itself over to Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign, giving the Clinton campaign control over fundraising, strategy, and financial decisions. They even had veto power over hiring at the DNC. The revelation is shocking, even among people who suspected it was true, and it's now splitting the Democratic Party. Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts now says the 2016 race was, quote, rigged in the primaries. Current DNC Deputy Chair Keith Ellison of Minnesota, who supported Bernie Sanders, said the party is betraying millions of voters. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, however, says, stop talking about it. Time to move on and focus on the next election and not feud over the last one. What about voters, though? Do they have a say in all of this? Should they have had a say? Christy Setzer is a Democratic strategist, president of New Heights Communication, and joins us tonight. Christy, thanks a lot for coming on.
I'm really glad to be here. Thanks, Tucker.
How is this not the definition of corruption?
Well, I know that Donna Brazile would like to sell some books. However, she fails to account for two things. The main argument that she makes in this supposedly explosive piece is, one, that when she got to the DNC, two things were happening. One, it had been mismanaged. And two, she felt that people there had their finger on the scale for Hillary. Well, guess what? We already knew that. And that is why several people resigned at the convention and she took over. So it's really old news here, and I'm a little confused as to why we're focused on it.
Well, I don't know why we're attacking Donna Brazile personally, whom I'll remind you is a woman of color. But I don't think that your response, just using the rules that you guys set up, that your response accounts for the claims that she makes. She says there was an agreement explicitly signed, a legal agreement between the Clinton campaign in August of 2015, a year before the primaries ended, and the DNC giving the Clinton campaign financial and hiring control over decisions at the DNC. That seems like corruption. I don't know how else you would describe that.
No, it's not. So here's what actually happens, and I'm sure this happens on the Republican side as well, which is that when someone has secured their party's nomination, essentially they start acting as one with the party committee.
Right.
So it seems as though the Clinton campaign decided to make this agreement early, which said, hey, guys, when I actually secure the nomination, you know that we're going to have some say over the communications director, over some of the strategy, things like that. That, to me, does not seem out of the ordinary.
Yeah, that's not actually what it said. And I mean, look, if you're making the point that both parties try to rig the system in favor of the candidate they want, you're absolutely right. And the Republicans tried to do that, and they failed. And that's how they got Trump. No, it's true. Both parties try to rig it. But my question is, don't voters have a say in this? The party doesn't belong to the people who are paid by it. It belongs to the voters who vote for it. And to make an agreement like this before they get to vote seems to me an act of undermining democracy.
It's not at all. I mean, the states are the ones who control the primaries. The DNC and party committee staffers really have, frankly, very little role in that. So no. And the other thing is that I think there's a suggestion here that that it was so unfair as to that something might have changed the outcome. Hillary Clinton won the primary by 4 million votes. So it's really hard to see how this could have gone down any other way. And again, to look back on, would this change things so that, she wouldn't rightfully become president? Well, she's not in office right now. So it's hard to know why this matters so much.
I mean, these are all hypothetical questions, but what we do know is that the system was not on the level. It was rigged. And I'm not a Democrat, but a lot of people who have devoted their lives to the party are saying that. Here's what Tulsi Gabbard, who at one point was a vice chair of the DNC, you can't say she's not a Democrat, quote, the campaign finance laws, and I'm quoting, essentially allowed the Clinton campaign to bypass individual contribution limits by funneling millions of dollars to the DNC, taking control of the DNC in the process. She's not selling a book. That's a real accusation from a lifelong Democrat.
It's not an accusation. What it is again, to go back and think about what had happened here, Hillary Clinton, took the DNC when they were in a ton of debt, when they were basically bankrupt, and got them out of bankruptcy. Raised a lot of money for the DNC, raised a lot of money for state parties, and then, basically said, hey, and we're also going to want some say in how that money is used. And that's not so unfair. As I understand it, the same agreement was basically offered to Bernie Sanders' campaign as well. He chose not to raise money for the party. And look, that sets up a larger contrast between the fact that Hillary Clinton has been a Democrat largely all her life. She talks about how she was a Goldwater girl. And then, and has been.
And Bernie's not really a Democrat. I mean, I love that Bernie's not really a Democrat argument. Look, he voted with the Democrats his entire career in the Senate, as you well know.
Yep.
But how about someone who has been a Democrat consistently, Elizabeth Warren, saying the system is rigged? Is she not a real Democrat too? I mean, look, the point is this is not just Donald Trump or right-wingers like me trying to cause trouble in your party. These are actual Democrats. What do you think Joe Biden thinks of this, for example, who got shafted because the DNC put his thumb on the scale when it shouldn't have? And let's just admit that it's corruption.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that people like, Martin O'Malley and Bernie Sanders have a legitimate complaint to say that on a personal level, the staffers at the DNC probably preferred Hillary Clinton. I think that is true. I think that the debate schedule was unfair, et cetera. But I don't think that you can say that from abroad. I just really don't think that this is being made into. Yeah.
When Democratic National Committee staffers who are bound, I would say honor bound, to remain neutral in the nominating contest, are figuring out ways to impugn Senator Sanders because of his religion, and they were caught doing that.
Yeah.
You think that's not corrupt?
I don't think it's corrupt. I think it's human that they had preferences, and I think that look, on the GOP side, I'm sure that was the case as well. I mean, you may remember that Priebus wasn't terribly excited about the idea of Donald Trump.
I'm not contesting that. The Republican Party didn't want Donald Trump. He bulldozed them and won. They tried to rig it too. I mean, that's true. I'm just saying it's not supposed to work this way. The Democratic Party just got caught rigging an election, and they should just admit it and apologize and maybe bring a little democracy into the process. That's all I'm saying.
I would disagree with that assessment. I don't think that it was rigged. I think that Hillary probably did have outsized control for a lot of reasons, but again, it didn't change anything ultimately.
Yeah, unknowable. Christy, thank you for that.
Thank you, Tucker.